Joining us on this enlightening episode of Ron Siegel Radio as we welcome Doug Waldman, an expert in real estate and a specialized loan officer at Geneva Financial. Doug brings a wealth of experience from his time as a realtor, appraiser, property manager, investor, builder, developer, and mortgage loan originator. I'm getting tired just reading all this. On this episode, Doug's going to dive deep into the Home Select loan product, discussing why it might be the most disruptive financial tool in the real estate market in the last 90 years. Welcome, Doug. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Glad to be
you've
here.
got all those things that you've done, and I get tired just reading it, no less you doing it. Pretty amazing resume there, my friend.
Got a little bit of experience, been a little bit of everything.
So give me an idea. What is this? We had I've been talking about this Home Select product, and we talked last week. If you missed the episode, shame on you. But Todd Ballinger was on talking about this product, and you've addressed it in a little different way than most. You've been branding it as being disruptive. Why is it so disruptive?
It utilizes some technologies that are pretty cutting edge, and it's really the only mortgage that's been introduced in the last 20 years. The 30-year amortizing loan came out in the 1930s to help people buy homes after the Great Depression, and it's all front-loaded with profit. It's all slanted towards the bank. This gives the borrower complete autonomy to handle their finances, and they actually stop living for their house. They now are able to utilize their house and the financing of the home as a tool, and so it's pretty disruptive. It's going to go to I think it's going to do to mortgages what Uber and Lyft have done to taxi industries and all this other new cutting edge technology.
Wow, that's a pretty bold statement. I looked at one of the products. In fact, I've got one in front of me, and I think when we talked to Todd last week. I think the number that we came up with is it took about 22 to 23 years to pay off half of a mortgage, half of the principal of a mortgage with a traditional 30-year mortgage. 22 or 23 years. Now, on the Home Select, how long is it going to take to pay off almost the whole thing?
The average client pays off in 7 to 12 years. I just completed a loan for a gentleman in California. We estimate that he's going to pay off in 4.5 years. His effective APR was somewhere in the ones. At the end of that time, he'll have a $900,000 line of credit, free and clear. He'll own a home that just recently was worth 1.15, so probably 1.5 in 5 years. And we estimate we're going to save him $1.2 million in interest expense.
Wait. $1.2 million saved in interest expense?
In interest expense.
That's massive.
Huge. Disruptive.
Now, there you go. Disruptive. So think about that concept. Now, just, I don't know if you remember this. I'm going to throw this at you anyway, and if you don't know, it's not a big deal. Do you remember how old the person was? Roughly?
Young 40s.
Young 40s. So can you imagine? So by the time he's, 45 years old, 50 years old, he's got no mortgage payment, yet he's got all the liquidity of that. My guess is probably his biggest asset.
And it goes even beyond that, because if you think how we've been hammered to only utilize 30-year amortizing loans, so now he frees up, let's say, $6,000 a month in 4.5 years. That was earmarked to keep going to his mortgage year after year for the next 30 years. So not only do we save him $1.2 million, not only do we get rid of the biggest debt he's ever going to own, but we free up $6,000 a month to start putting in income producing vehicles. So we estimated, I think, at 7% growth on his investments, he makes another $1 million by the time he would have been still paying for his mortgage. So
by the time he would still have been
swing.
Wow! So by the time he would have still been paying for the mortgage, he gets another $1 million.
Yep, cash.
Those are some life-changing numbers. Now, one of the things that I'm looking at in this product, Doug, and I don't know if it's something that you talk about much, but we're looking right now, and I know that I'm an outlier, but I look down at deep into the background of the economy, and what's happening in manufacturing and what's happening in auto sales and what's happening in some of in services. And the numbers that are not being reported in the marketplace are showing that our economy is slowing down dramatically. People are losing their jobs. If you don't have a job and you have to make that $6,000 a month payment, that could cause a lot of family stress.
And it has for generations, right? We don't
Right.
care. Ron, you're sick. That's unfortunate. Make your payment. You lost your
Yeah.
job. Unfortunate. Make your payment.
No one, the banks don't care.
With this loan, as long as you've got equity or a balance, available credit above your loan balance, if you don't make a payment for the month, nothing happens. Zero. It reports as paid as agreed. The interest just gets moved to the top of the loan. So if you owed $100,000, you had a $200,000 line, so you have $100,000 available credit, and let's say you had $3,000 worth of interest expense, you just owe 103. Paid as agreed, still reported, because there's nothing derogatory happened. You're just eating up a little bit of your line.
And if I need to pulse a little bit of money out of my line to go and buy some groceries, maybe
write a check. This is the Swiss Army knife of loans. This thing does everything.
Wow. We are joined this morning. Doug Waldman with Geneva Financial is with us talking about the Home Select product. Hey, Doug, can a millennial or a Gen Z use this product to buy their first home?
Absolutely. And they should be investigating it if they qualify. This is by far most likely for qualified borrowers. This is for people that have more money than month. If they're living hand to mouth, then there's other options that are a little bit more price suitable for them. But if they're like a lot of my nieces and nephews and kids that are millennials making real money, Gen Z making real money, absolutely. My son is getting ready to come into this product. He's a 30-something-year-old young man that owns a house in Southern California. We've estimated he'll pay off his house in just shy of 4 years. I think it was 3.8 or maybe 4.2. Have a $500,000 line of credit when he's done.
Is there any limitations on what he can do with that $500,000 line of credit?
No, it's attached to an FDIC insured checking account. You can write a check, you can buy cars with it, and then just pay it back down again. It is just like a line of credit that you'd have at the bank. It's attached to your house. You have $500,000 to do with as you see fit. And that's what most people do. They become their own banker.
Can we use your son for a second as an example here?
Sure.
So your son goes out and puts this on his property, and he's got his property now paid off, and let's just call it around 5 years.
Okay.
And you said he's 30-something, so I'm just going to say 30 for whatever. It doesn't matter what the number is.
Okay.
So he has his house paid off at age 35, and he takes $500,000 and goes, and I'm assuming, and we're just going to make these assumptions as we go, that the house that he's looking at right now is not his forever home. He's getting into something to get into the game. It's not the 4-bedroom home with the white picket fence and the pool in the backyard and a 10,000-foot lot or whatever.
Right.
So now now we're going to advance the clock. He's 35. He's got $500,000 in equity there. Can he take that and go buy, say a $1 million house, assuming he qualifies again, buy $1 million house that he can move into and keep this loan on the departing property?
Absolutely. He could write a check from the equity, which means he doesn't have to do any heroics. His realtor doesn't have to do any heroics. They can write an offer on the new house without a contingency because he doesn't need to sell house A to get into house B. He simply just writes a check for the deposit. We get him requalified for the new loan, which would also probably be another Home Select. He'd put a tenant in the old property and do it again.
So now let's just say hypothetically, he's age 35 now. He's got a $1 million home with $500,000 in equity in that because he just made a down payment. Right. So obviously he's got a loan for $500 in his Home Select, and now he's looking at say 7 years to pay that one off. So now he's age 42, and now he's got both. hypothetically, he's got both houses paid off now, right?
Right. He could have a tenant pay off the down payment for the new house, and he only owes half or 50% on the new house, and the tenant pays off the down payment on the departing property. It's a no duh.
Yeah, so he's developing. We're at 42 right now. The tenant basically paid off the departing property, his original.
Right.
He's been putting his money into the new one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty close to being paid off. So now you've got both properties appreciating, and I didn't even talk about the appreciation on the last one, but if he's in Southern California, he's probably appreciating it somewhere around 5.25%. So he's got a property that's worth $1 million, a property that's worth a $500,000 and a half. So now he's got 5% of that. So it's another, is my math right? $75,000 a year in appreciation coming in,
or more.
Or
where
more?
Where he lives is a very, very hot market.
Okay, so now he could hypothetically decide at 42. I've got these two properties. I can write checks out of those and go buy a third property.
Yes, sir.
So
we even have techniques where we find that people build equity so quickly in their properties because of this that they go back to their realtors and within several years start buying investment properties because they can write a check. And so even if they're in their forever home, you reverse what you just said, and they can buy an investment property without displacing themselves from the first house. And we have techniques to even get them into that house with no further income qualification, like a DSCR loan.
Wow. So again, I talk my tagline, Doug. I've changed my tagline. It used to be is that I used to say that we make dreams come true, or we finance your dream.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've started with this tagline that we're basically saying strategy beats rate always. Now, when I talked about this last week, we talked about the fact that this loan is probably a higher face interest rate than where fixed rate loans are right now. Is that still true?
Absolutely.
But the effective rate, because of the way the strategy, the numbers are way below what we even saw 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So what was the number you said on the one the person you just qualified? It was in the ones, I think you said, wasn't it?
Ones are very low twos.
1% effective interest rate, and the ones or twos. Is it a short-term loan or a 30-year loan?
It's a 30-year loan. You have 10 years at full line of credit, and then after that, it starts reducing at 1/240th a month. There's only 3 reasons people even refinance this loan to begin with. They pay off so quickly. They either refinance to drag out or to restart the clock on the full 10-year line of credit. Many people will refinance it just because their houses have been appreciating and they want to go to 80 or 90% on the new value and increase their line, giving themselves even more purchasing power. So, for example, this gentleman, let's say for round numbers, he had $1 million home. We get him an $800,000 line. In 5 years, that house in Southern California could very easily be 1.5. Now he's up to a $1.2 million line. So he could refinance just to expand that. And then the third reason is because once we get, we were expecting rates to drop. We don't have a crystal ball when this might happen, when the Fed might get their finger off the scale. But eventually, intellectually, we're assuming that sooner or later rates will go down. And when they do, people can then lock in at the bottom of the market for 5 years and get even more savings.
Okay, when we come back, I want to talk to you about the next step of this. About, is this a loan for old people like you and me, Doug? We're going to talk about that when we come back. Continue our conversation. We are chatting with Doug Waldman this morning, or this afternoon, depending upon when you're listening to us. So, being that I can only say this because I am old, I admit to it firsthand. No hair. Doug and I go to the same barber. If you're watching us on RonSiegelRadio.tv. And Doug's told us he's got a 30-something son, so I know he's about as old as I am. Doug, in our age, we're starting to come up with, some of our peers are thinking about, they should be thinking about a reverse mortgage. But here the question becomes, okay, is it possible to use this Home Select product in lieu of a reverse mortgage.
Absolutely. And it's more flexible by far.
A lot more. Well, you know something. One of the things, and I will admit that I've gotten a lot of educational materials from Doug. We borrow materials back and forth. But if you have a income and you've got a $1.5 million property with a $700,000 loan, there's not a lot of options in the reverse mortgage world for you. Can you do this on $1 million property, a $2 million property?
We can go up to $3 million in loan amount. So this could be a $5 million property. If they're at 60%, we could be at $3 million, provided they have income to qualify, because unlike a reverse mortgage, this is an income qualification loan. But as long as they qualify when they get the loan, they could go up to 80% without mortgage insurance. So if somebody has a 50% loan to value on, let's say, a $3 million property, they can go to $1.5 million of balance, but they can go to 80% of $3 million at $2.4 million on the line. And they'd have a $900,000 line of credit to supplement their income as they see fit, or to stop making payments on the house, or both. Absolutely, this allows you to control your finances. You become your own bank. Very, very different than the thought process that's been beat into our heads about the 30-year amortizing loan.
Okay, now let's take it the next step, Doug. And I don't want to get too technical, but if you want technical information, you go to, was it gohomeselectchallenge.com?
Nope, just gohomeselect.com or homeselectchallenge.com.
Okay, so go to any of those, or you can go to RSR Home Select. That works, rsrhomeselect.com. All three of those websites work. They're basically going to give you a lot of the same information. But here's the issue: is, Doug, if I got income, but there's so many people. I mean, I go out. Most people that follow me on social media know that a lot of weekends I go out and walk Balboa Island, and I don't think you can buy anything on Balboa Island for less than $4 or $5 million. And my guess is that probably 75% of the people that live there could not afford to buy that property today based on their current income. But they've got assets. Can you use some of your assets to help qualify for this loan?
Yep, we can absolutely help income qualify you through depletion, which is a technical term for using your assets to. We use a ratio to turn that into income for qualification purposes. Absolutely. So if you're asset heavy, this loan will still allow you to qualify.
So Doug, I'm gonna throw something at you that I'm sure that you've heard already. This sounds way too good to be true.
It does.
How do I get my arms around the idea that this just sounds like it's too good to be true? And we've been taught since the day that, since we're a little kid, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Just do your homework. It's been around. This loan's been around for 20 years, like Todd brought up last weekend. It started in Australia. It went to New Zealand. They tried to bring it here. Richard Branson brought it here and didn't do a great job of getting it launched, but it's been in the United States for 20 years. It's been in the UK. It's been in Canada. It's in Japan. We have much data on it. Go to our website at gohomeselect.com and you can learn more there. There's a PowerPoint presentation that explains how it works. Once you understand how it works, it starts making sense. It's not nearly as scary. And you'll realize that this is just a different way and a much more efficient way to deal with your mortgage. And it puts you in control instead of the bank. Because right now you're paying on a 30-year amortizing loan where for the first 222 months out of 360, you're paying more interest than principal. For the first 5 or 6 years, you're paying almost all interest. The banks love it when you keep refinancing.
Yeah, because they've got more on this particular product. They don't like you because of the security that you're taking away from them, do they?
Disruptive. I just saved my client $1 million that would have gone to his mortgage lender. Instead, he gets to keep that in his family, build generational wealth for his kids, put his kids through better schools, whatever it is that he wants to do. And I've run scenarios for much larger houses, $2 and $3 million loans, where these guys are going to save $3-4 million. I mean,
are they going to still be in the same effective interest rate range? Is it going to still be that massively low number?
It really get it generally it's going to be lower for sure. It depends on how much discretionary income they have left at the end of the month.
So one of the things I'm going to throw out there, because I can, is that generally that which we don't understand, we don't like. That's just common. It's just human nature. If we don't understand it, we don't like it.
Yep.
The question is it worth $1 million? Is it worth $500,000 to go and get educated? Now, if you can go to Columbia, and I think it's about $80,000 a year. Doug, you're not going to charge somebody $80,000 a year to educate them on this, are you?
Absolutely not. It's absolutely gratis. I just want people to understand that there are better options out there than what's been crammed down their throat for the last umpteen years since the Great Depression.
So I want to look at, I think I've got a file in front of me here that is a $360,000 loan.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that we put in there how much money that person's going to save on a $360,000 loan. I just found the number.
Mm-hmm.
Just throwing some numbers at it. And I'm not going to give all the exact numbers. We've done that before. You can go to the websites and see the exact things. But if you're looking at, again, this is a small number, and I know 360,000 is a lot of money. Don't look at me and say that I'm pretty crass about that. It's a lot of money, and it's somebody's castle. But in Southern California, with Orange County being at $1.1 million, $1.2 million as a median home price, 360 is not a big number. That person can save $426,000.
Yeah, they can hit you all the way to the bank.
Right? Think about that. That's more than their 401k could grow to or potentially be. $426,000
and fast.
And so those are the type of things. Now, is $426,000 for a first-time home buyer worth spending a half an hour or an hour on a consultation on a few websites? You're spending more than an hour on TikTok, right? So just think about that concept about how you could help your kids, your grandkids, yourself. This is massive stuff, and it's not anything really new. Doug just told us it's been around for decades.
There's never been a default, which is really surprising to me. I'd heard that number, but again, because of some of the features we've already talked about, you can see why. So if somebody knows that they're in a very slippery predicament, this gives them a real safety net as long as they've got that equity there to figure out what they do before it's up around their neck. Whereas a normal mortgage, hey, you missed a couple payments, man. You're going to get a knock on the door, and they're filing paperwork at the court.
Think about this. If you're making, let's just say $5,000 a year, and you've got $200,000 in equity, is my math right? That's about 3 years worth of your household a replacement income.
Yes, sir.
For you to go and get retrained or find a new job.
3 years of just being able to breathe and reassess what you're doing and get a new trajectory for your life. Absolutely.
Great information, Doug. I appreciate you coming on. We're gonna have all of these things in our show notes where you can actually get some data on this. If you want more information, give me a call at 800-306-1990. You can go to homeselect.com, gohomeselect.com, or rsrhomeselect.com. Get the information that you need to make an educated decision. Whether it's right for you or not, I don't know. What I do know is you cannot make an educated decision without being educated. I just throw that out there. Again, Doug, thanks for joining us.